Erotic literature is not a typical topic of conversation on 100 Huntley Street. A longing for real intimacy, which is God's design, is being exploited by the media and books like 50 Shades of Grey. Dannah Gresh, with the help of clinical psychologist Dr. Julie Slattery, is pulling back the shades on erotica, intimacy, and the longings of a woman's heart. In Pulling Back the Shades, Dannah, you say you don't have to choose between sexual and spiritual.
No. In fact, this is mind-blowing, but one of the most liberal sexual studies conducted to date found that the most sexually satisfied women were middle-aged, married women who were religiously active.
Church ladies?
Church ladies! I call it the revenge of the church lady.
Now, why is it showing their victory?
I think because they're putting their intimacy with God first, and our intimacy with our spouse is an extension of understanding that intimacy. But what's good about what's happening right now is that for years there have been not biblical mandates, but Christian traditions on what is taboo in terms of conversation for educating women within the church about sexuality, and also in terms of the bedroom. And one of the questions that we answer in Pulling Back the Shades is, what is okay in the bedroom? What does God specifically say no to? And then those areas where it is gray, because he doesn't specifically address something, what do I use as a conversation point with my husband to figure out what is good for us and what is bad? And we go to the book of the Bible verse that says, everything is beneficial for me.
Everything's permissible.
Everything is permissible, but not all things.
Thank you.
Everything is permissible, but not all things are beneficial. I won't be mastered by anything. And so the three questions you can ask is, does God say it's okay? There's only like 10 or 11 things he says no to as far as sex. And then you ask, is it good for me? Is it beneficial? Is it healthy and loving and medically good for me? Am I going to finish this thing and be whole physically and emotionally? And then finally, am I mastered by it? Anything that controls us, that we can't live without. And that's happening with erotica right now with Christian women. They can't live without it. They're ruining their lives and their families because they have to squeeze that in for hours every day. That's
so
being
dabbling
mastered.
There is creating a desire for more of the same.
Yeah.
But why has it caught fire? Why has erotica, this explicit literature?
Yeah.
You told us that Christian women are responding to it in equal measure. And
the men, their husbands, love that the wives are more interested in the bedroom initially. But this is a shortcut. 50 Shades of Grey is a shortcut. The bondage and dominance and masochism and sadism, I refuse to use the acronym. I want you to defend it with the words right there, what they are.
They all sound ugly.
They are ugly words. They're terrible words. And but going that way circumnavigates the longer process of growing in intimacy, slowly learning what is arousing to each other, communicating and talking. Sex is really about the intimacy of communicating and talking. It's not about the act that's taking place.
Real friendship seems to be at the root of those happy married couples.
That's the key. And
knowing each other.
This is so good. Maura, Song of Solomon, the word for love in Song of Solomon is largely the word for friendship. In this sexy, steamy book, it's talking about the building of their friendship. And we want to celebrate that, and in the book we want to give women tools to know what is okay and how can I be more sexual and also grow spiritually.
Well, you use the book of Nehemiah and the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem under his leadership as the portrait of the challenge that we face. And I'm wanting you to give us some practical tools. How do we build that wall of holiness, that protective wall?
This is so cool because Dr. Julie Slattery and I we wrote this book very quickly to respond to the wave of erotica that was happening, and we needed God's Spirit to guide us. And we sat down in her living room and began to pray before we wrote. And I began to say, Lord, thank you that you turned me to Nehemiah today. And she interrupted me and said, wait, you were reading Nehemiah? we both broke from our regular reading patterns to read Nehemiah, and here's what we learned.
Without planning it.
Without planning
God
it. And
put you
I mean, it wasn't Song of Solomon or something related to the book. The Lord led us both to that passage.
Cool.
And here's what happens in Nehemiah. The wall of integrity for the Israeli nation was broken down. There wasn't one left. It was rubble. And the wall of our moral integrity is broken down in our culture right now.
Oh,
it's
talk
not there.
about blurred lines.
Now here's the thing. Nehemiah is miles away. In a day and age, he was worlds away from the ruin, and he could have stayed there. And I'm speaking to women right now who've never read the book, who aren't planning to go see the movie. But God's calling us, like he called Nehemiah, to build that wall up. And what Nehemiah did is he said, Lord, break my heart. Break my heart. Let it feel what you are feeling because of the rubble that's in our culture right now. And then he took himself far away from that safe place and he walked back to the rubble. And with one hand, they had a tool, and with the other hand, they had an instrument of praise. And if we could just arm up with books like this that help us to have loving conversations with women who've fallen into the traps of erotica, that's our tool. And at the same time being encompassed in praise, being always praying and asking the Lord how we should be responding to this, I think that we have a chance at building this wall of integrity in our culture once again.
Interesting. This whole sexual arena, pornography, the books on Kindle and on things on the internet, it's hidden, but the fallout is not hidden.
It's not.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. We've talked with women who are elders' wives. One woman, she got so addicted to the erotica from reading 50 Shades of Grey that she packed her suitcase and she was ready to leave, and the Lord rescued her. Another woman who never imagined it, she was a leader in her church, a youth leader in her church, and she was looking online for sex partners to try bondage, dominance, masochism, and sadism. It's deep, it's deceptive, it's gripping, and we women who are not in the grip of it need to be the ones like Nehemiah to prepare our hearts to go in and clean up the rubble.
Dannah, when you married, you didn't tell your husband about your sexual past.
No.
But something brought you to a place where you knew you needed to deal with the brokenness.
Yeah. Well, you know what it really was? It was having a precious baby girl, a 6-month-old baby girl. I was driving down the highway, listening to a radio program, kind of like this TV program, and I heard this question, what is the #1 question on a teenage girl's mind when she's talking to her mom about sex? Without hesitation, a woman's answer was, the #1 question on her mind is, Mom, did you wait? And do you know the healing that I wasn't really willing to work for and work through for my own heart? And yet, all those years I had prayed, Lord, don't let my daughter know the pain that I have known from my sexual sin. With that baby girl in the backseat of my car, I pulled over to the side of the road and I said, okay, Lord, allowed tears to engulf me for the first time. I will fight this battle. What do I need to do to be whole and heal? I'll do anything.
And that prayer has led to how many years of ministry to help women and girls everywhere?
15 years. This is our 15th year.
Fantastic.
Yeah. God is good. When he heals you up and makes you whole, it's contagious, and you have to pour it out into the lives of those God entrusts to you.
And what a great teaming with clinical psychologist Dr. Julie Slattery. Just the names of her books. Passion Pursuit legitimizes that we were wired for passion and authentic intimacy, not this cheap substitute that takes us into the trap of the enemy and ultimately erodes our meaningful marriages. We just need to talk about this more. I'm sure we've ruffled a few feathers just with some of these words, but our culture is dominated.
Yeah, and I should say that what we've talked about here is very tame. If men and women in the church knew what was truly in the pages of 50 Shades of Grey, there would not be one who wasn't entering into the fight. This is truly demonic, dark, and evil, and we need to be prayerful about it and loving about it, but we need to engage in a conversation right now.
Thank you, Dannah, for the challenge. And I'll just say in closing, if if especially your personal, vulnerable testimony here has awakened something in your heart, maybe it's time to talk to somebody. Our prayer lines are available. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I think it's because of the awareness that there are so many, and they've held it for so long.
Yeah.
And
they don't have to hold it
they
alone.
don't have to hold it any longer.
Walk with someone.
Do that. And you can begin right now by picking up the phone. Dannah, we need to have you back.
I'd love that.
God bless you and all you're doing.